Hey mages, welcome to today's video. Today, first ever type of this video where I'm going to be giving you some suggestive upgrades for my zero rare decks that I've put out recently. This is a very much requested video. Every time I do a zero rare decks, they get so much love. I must say thank you to all that. But one thing everyone always asks for, if I want to upgrade this, pimp it out with loads of rares and mythics, what cards do you suggest for doing that? So this is what I thought I'd do, is when I do the zero rare decks, I then follow up with this type of video. So let me know what you think of it, and if you enjoy it and find it helpful, please give it a big thumbs up and everything like that, and subscribe if you're new. So without all that junk out of the way, let's get to the first deck, which is going to be the zero rare Phyrexian tribal deck. So with all the card changes in these decks, there's quite a few in some of these decks, so what I'm going to do is put them all in the description so you can see which cards I've taken out and which cards are coming in. Then you will be able to just export them straight from the description straight away. But this was probably the most popular deck out of all my zero rare decks in this new March of the Machine standard season. This was zero rare Phyrexians. We worked on a tribal aspect of this deck. Obviously, really, quite a few creatures. There was 26 creatures, all Phyrexians, 10 non-creature spells, and it was a 2.3 average. This works really well, and like all the decks, they were quite competitive and they work really well as zero rares. So if you haven't got all the rares, you can make little changes to these and eventually build up. If it's a deck that you really want to play and take further, you can then add all the rares as coming up. We had some removal, go for the throat cut down, but a lot of 2-drop creatures that did some things. But there's some, really good, powerful cards that can come in and take their place. So let's have a look at the upgrades. So we are adding, we do keep some of the core cards in the deck. We still have Core and Chorus, that's good. Cut Down's great removal, obviously, and Go for the Throat is still going to be there as well. Norn Inquisitor, I do like this card. Ends the battlefield, we get to incubate 2, and we can transform Phyrexians to put a 1/1 counter on it. Still got good cards like Elas as well. This Death Touch creature can trade with anything, and it has a good drain and gain effect as well. Phyrexian Censor, still keep it in the deck because it does slow down opponents. So if we can get this down turn 3, it's a really good card, making stuff come in and tap so we can get through with the wins. But what do we add into this deck? Well, first of all, we're going to look at the stats. We're up into 29 creatures and 6 non-creature spells, because when we can add some rares, we get a lot of really good creatures. But it seems the average is 2.1. And as you can see, the Phyrexian creatures is still, they're all Phyrexian creatures, 29. So, the powerhouses. Defector Mite is really good. It has Toxic 1, can't block, but what it's there is to protect our other creatures, and this is a really good card. Another target creature you control gains Toxic 1 and Hexproof from that colour until end of turn. It can't be blocked by creatures, so it's a good way to get some damage in, and we're putting a full 4 of these in there as well, because it's a great protection spell and obviously can help us get through with the wins as well. Grafted Butcher, 2 mana, 2/2, ends the battlefield. All our Phyrexians gain menace until end of turn, and it's a pump as well. It's an anthem. Other Phyrexians you control all get +1/1. Not legendary. We put 4 of these straight in the deck as well, so we can pump up and make our Phyrexians so much bigger. Also has the effect of paying 4, sack an artifact, and your creature return the Butcher from your graveyard to the battlefield. So it has recursion, and this is, if you're going to put one of the rares in the deck, for me, Grafted Butcher is the one that you put straight in there. We've got Vraan, Executioner of Thane, because with the drain and gain from Elas, this turns out to be really cool as well. So whenever one or more creatures you control die, each opponent loses 2 life, we gain 2 life, but it only triggers once each turn, which is a bit of a shame. It is a legendary. We're going to put 3 in there because it just works so well, synergistic with the Elas as well. Gix for a bit of card draw, 3/3 whenever creature deals combat damage. Now, remember, we've got the Defector Mite that we can potentially give protection to a colour, get through, pay the 1, draw the card. You can also pay a big 7, discard X card, exile the top cards from a target opponent's lonely, and you may play lands and cast spells with any mana cost. Never actually done that. I've seen it played against me a few times, but this, to me, is getting in there, getting instant combat damage, and helping us draw some cards. Now we go to 2 big powerhouses in the deck. Elesh Norn, a Phyrexian Praetor, source opponent controls, deals combat damage to a permanent you control. That source's controller loses 2 life, so we're draining again By adding these rares and mythics in here, we do add into a different type of deck. We go into a real drain and gain type of deck, which is really cool. They have to sack it or they pay 1. We've sacrificed 3 other creatures, exile the Elesh Norn, return it to the battlefield, transform, which is nice because we do have recursion with Grafted, so we could sack if we really wanted to, and it comes back in as the Argent Etchings, incubate 2 5 times, then you get to transform all those tokens, and if you've got something like Norn Inquisitor on there, they come in with a 1/1 counter as well. So that's pretty, really good synergy. Creature you control get +1 double strike to end of turn, and then destroy all other permanents except for artifact lands and Phyrexians, and we've got lots of Phyrexians. This other one doesn't need much, it doesn't need an introduction. It's one of the best cards in Standard. It's Sheoldred, it's a Phyrexian. It's got the drain effect as well, so it goes into this new theme of playing Phyrexians. I'm missing a couple of cards from this, and I really want to give this deck a try because the upgrades for me just make this deck so much better. And to me, it was already good already. People are saying they were getting into Platinum with it, with the 0 rare deck. That is really good. So yeah, big ups to everyone that managed to get up that high with it. But yeah, these extra cards do add in some power. Now we go to the lands. Lands in all these decks are going to get severe upgrades because we're total 0 rare, and going in with rare lands makes decks more consistent and makes them stronger. We have removal lands like Arganju, 4 damage target attacking or blocking creatures, Takenuma to discard, mill 3 and then potentially return a creature, so a good way to get your Elesh Norn or something like that back as well. And then we add in the rare lands like Shattered Sanctum, Caves of Kalios, Mirex because it can make a Phyrexian Mite as well, a bit more toxic. One card that I didn't have in the 0 rare deck, which probably should have been in there, which was Secluded Courtyard. This has to go straight in there. I probably just missed that. I think someone said in the comments about it as well. The il-Kor is a rare land that can come in as well. Spend this mana only cast Phyrexian spells. You can have 1 mana of any colour, and then target 1/1 creature gets +2/+1 to end of turn, which is when you're making your little mites. That's really good. We've got Crawling Zurus and obviously Skrelv as well. So yeah, Phyrexians gets a sweet upgrade. Very excited about playing this deck. Let me know what you think of the upgrades and which ones you're going to be adding in. And but let's get on to the next deck. So the next deck that gets an upgrade is the Selesnya Counters deck. So this is another synergistic deck that relies on all counters coming on, and we're making, putting more counters on, multiplying counters, and then getting in for the win. We have Trample, the best card that stays across into the other deck as well. The upgrade Botanical Brawler. Because it has Trample, I love it. It just goes over the top. We used a lot of different cards in this one, like Storm the il-Kor. Just using up cards that, they're in your collection. You probably don't use them that much because if you're building decks, you don't see these sort of cards. But these cards really do work well. When you're playing 0 rares, you have to look for cards that are, not used heavily, but still work with a deck and are very synergistic. And cards like Invasion of Mogue is very good, and that enters the battlefield, put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control. Now, this had 20 creatures, 16 non-creatures in the 0 rare deck, and then had a CMC average of 2.4. Like I said, if you didn't see the 0 rare deck videos and you want to just play the 0 rares, they will all be in the description. But let's get on to the upgrades. So here we go for the upgrades, and this deck does get changed. Still bringing in cards like Skrelv. The protection, very good. We can give another target creature you control against Toxic 1, hexproof to end of turn. And when you're playing counters, if you haven't got the trample and you want to get over the top and you don't want to be blocked by a little 1/1 blocker, this is what you kind of put in there. Still keeping cards like Enduring Bond Warden, very nice 1-drop. Creature dies, put the counters on target creature you control. We can put this in with a backup 1. Still keeping in the deck, we've got like Ossification for a bit of removal. We've got Botanical Brawler as well. But yeah, this deck gets a whopping change. So let's have a look what we're bringing in. Hopeful Initiate has training, so when the creature attacks another creature with greater power, put a 1/1 counter on it. We can remove 2 counters, destroy target artifact or enchantment. So we're putting this in there as a 3 of, and I didn't say that the Mite is in there just as a 2 of in this deck, because we have a fair few 1-drops there. Look at it, 25, 11 non-creatures and a 2.2 CM average. So the 2-drops, we get some really good upgrades. Dust Legion Duelist. When over 1 or more 1/1 counters are put on the Duelist, draw a card. Triggers only once each turn. Does have vigilance as well. Turn 2, attacking in turn 3. Really nice. Getting counters on this would be really good to get us some card draw. More creatures that we have in the deck. This is probably one of the first ones, like I say, you want to bring in. Quirion Beastcaller just gets massive. Whenever you cast a creature spell, put a 1/1 counter on it. And when it dies, you distribute those 1/1 counters on any number of target creatures with the amount of counters are on it. This can get really out of hand if it's left alone. 2/2 gets massive. 3/3, 4/3. When we've got cards like the the Botanical Brawler in there, when it ends battle, 2 1/1 counters, obviously, but whenever one or more counters are put on another permanent you control, if it's the first time, you get to put an extra counter on it. So you can just build this Quirion up and put it in Ozolith, the Shattered Spire. We're going to be building those counters up even more. In there, 3 of nice artifact, new from the new set of Mom. 1 more counter we put on an artifact you control. Put that many plus 1 more counters on. We can pay 2 and put a 1/1 counter on target artifact or creature. Activate only as a sorcery as well. It does have cycling in case you're stuck on land and you desperately need it, but you really do want this on the field. And cycling is probably the worst thing you can do it, but sometimes you just have to do it. So, we also have a Doomscar Warrior. When this creature deals combat damage to a player, about look at that many cards at the top of the library. Reveal a creature or land card, put it in your hand. So this has trample. So now we've got cards like Botanical Brawler with trample, and we also have the Doomscar Warrior with trample as well. Backup 1, so it puts counters on creatures as well, and these can just be multiplied. We put the Ozolith, we've got Botanical Brawler in there as well. They can just be, really, really cool effects. Also in the deck, new Invasion of Gobakhan, because it's a really weird thing to do in white is look at opponent's hand and exile the cards, slow them down a little bit. But when it goes to Light Shield Array, we only have to get 3 points off this to get the flip into the array. At the beginning of your end step, put a 1/1 counter on each creature that attack this turn, which is just so cool. And you can sacrifice it and they can gain hexproof and indestructible, which means you can be protected potentially from wraths. Doesn't get you around, obviously, farewell. Not many things do, but hopefully we're winning before that turn 6 farewell comes down. Upgrade as well, Still Seraph. We get to put a flying or lifelink or vigilance on a creature. This just helps out with a, flying evasion, helps us lifelink to gain some life as well, and if we need to keep back a blocker. Now, bearing in mind, some of these creatures can get massive, the Botanical, the Quirion, anything like that. Dust Legion as well, putting counters on that. We can make stuff unblockable and then give it lifelink or flying and just fly or just gain loads of life back. That is the idea of that. So the last 2 cards before we get to the lands. 2 Planeswalkers, Archangel of Elsbeth, creates a 1/1 token, so more, boots on the ground is good, but this has -2, 2/1 counters on target creature, it becomes an Angel Edition and gains flying as well. And the -6 return on non-land permanent cards with mana 3 or less. Well, we have a lot. We don't have any 3-drops, interestingly, in this build, but we have an absolute plethora of 2-drops that can potentially, and 1-drops, come back to the field. So that -6 is going to be great if we ever need it or get to it. Then Wandering Emperor, another Planeswalker that adds counters. Very good. Flash speed. This card doesn't need, it's a bit like Sheoldred, doesn't need any intros about it. It's just a really good card. Making a Samurai, exiling a creature, or just getting that 1/1 counter on. So we now go to the upgrade of the lands. We have a Ganju again. You'll see it's very familiar when you're playing white. You're always going to be playing this. And Besiege You. We got 2 of these in there. Destroying target artifact, charm, and non-basic land. Because Mirix obviously is a thing as well. That needs to be destroyed because they can keep making those 1/1 counters. Any type of toxic deck that plays Hive, anything like that, we can kill with Besiege You. 4 Brushland, 3 Overgrown Farmland, and the Thicket, just to make the deck one hell of a lot more consistent, is by changing those common and uncommon lands into rare lands if you can. Always the best things. Annoying to craft, but they are the best things to craft in any deck. You need the best lands. But that is 2 of the decks done. Let's get on to the last deck. So the last deck we look at, let's get an upgrade today, is the Incubate deck. This is a fun tribal deck again that we played. Incubate tokens getting them all on there, transforming them. It's really, really fun. We had, using some different cards that you wouldn't see in normal decks, like Tangled Skyline, Enter Battle, Gain 5 Life, Incubate 5. Helps us, did little things like giving it reach and stuff like that. We had Swamp Cycling with Inject Crocodile, because we need to obviously try and find the lands if we could. And at the end, this is a big 5/5 that when died made an Incubator as well. This deck had 16 creatures and 20 non-creature spells with a higher average of 2.9. We played some enchantments types in this as well, but all had incubator based. Removal as well, bit of card draw, sacking stuff, because we needed card draw in this, and attacking people's hand as well. So it was along more of a, not a control deck, but it played, it's a little bit different. This deck was a bit of ramp going in there because we had some bigger spells, the 4 mana, the 5 mana, and the 6 mana. So Blighted Burgeon would help out with this deck. And obviously the land base, rares and uncommons. Sorry, no rares, just commons and uncommons, hunted and jungle. But this deck now gets the upgrade. So let's have a look at what I put in. So here we go. This is Golgari Incubate. We get some really sweet cards to add into this. Let's take a little look. We've got 22 creatures, 14 non-creature spells, and a 2.8 average with this upgrade. We have quite a fair bit of removal in this deck. Like I said, it's not a control deck, but it has some, just some really good removal in Golgari. So cards like Go for the Throat are in there. We got Sheoldred's Edict as well. And we're adding Drowning Anchor in this because of the Proliferate. Didn't think about this in the 0 rare build, but when you're incubating tokens, Proliferate is actually pretty good. So this coming in, Drowning Anchor, can help us build up potential tokens as well. Talk about, adding in Proliferate. I've got a single Vraskas in this one as well. It's just a really good top end card that we could potentially get down turn 5 as well by paying the Phyrexian life. Draw a card, lose a life, and we get to Proliferate. So if we've got any of these tokens on the side, we can Proliferate and then just put, they come in with their counters, Proliferate, and then just add more onto their power and toughness, which would be, really, really cool. So cards still in the deck like il-Kor Drinker. Really nice 1-drop because we get to incubate from the graveyard, which is good, and it acts as an initial blocker in there, bit of lifelink, and then we exile it, incubate 2, and it will come in there and do some work for us, hopefully a bit later on. Still in there as well, Elvish Vat Keeper, one of the best uncommons for this type of deck. Into the battlefield, incubate 2. We can pay 5 late game, and then we can double the 1/1 counters on a transform incubate token. That is just massive. Getting it in there, you got your little 2/2 becoming a 4/4, and we got lots of ways to incubate in this as well. This is the interesting one to upgrade for the deck. Now, we will only be able to play triple green for this. You could potentially add in some different types of land, but I've kept the lands on this one with these upgrades with the Deathcap Glade, the Llanowar Waste, and that. But you could maybe add in some of the tri-lands to make it a little bit easier if you do so. But this Ginny Fae is good. Now, it's a 3/3, so easy kill, lightning strike, stuff like that. But yeah, it stays out of the way of cut down. If you would create 1 or more tokens, you may instead create that many 2/2 green tokens, cat creature tokens with haste, or 3/1 dog creature tokens with vigilance. So when you're creating incubator tokens and they might just be coming in as 2/2s or anything like that, we can actually make different types of tokens. They can come in as 3/1s, or we can cut them in as cat tokens with haste. I feel like this is a really cool card for the deck. I saw it played against me and I was like, yeah, I didn't even think about Ginny Fae. But yeah, Ginny Fae in an incubate deck is really, really cool. We have Cami of Whispered Hopes in there. Putting this in there now because when 1 more counters we put on a permanent, you control that many plus 1 counters are put on instead. So we get to potentially add on more counters and then make them bigger when we proliferate as well. There is a case to putting more proliferate in this deck, but yeah, we need a lot of the incubate tokens. This also has add X mana of any one color X is its power. So if this is bigger as well, can help us play the new bigger spells that we have like Glisser, Herald of Predation. Begin the combat on your turn, incubate 2 twice, transform all our incubate tokens if we want to do, or the Phyrexians you control gain first strike and death touch to end a turn. Sweet card, legendary card, in there as a 3/0, just works so well with the deck. Glistening Dawn incubate X twice, where X is the number of lands you control. So we've got plenty of lands down there. This can be amazing. And then transforming them all. Late game, we are really strong. We have the removal in hand, a little early blockers here. Removal, removal, removal. We have hand disruption. Target opponent reveals their hands, choose a creature or battle that we had in the original deck. We can choose discard, or we can incubate 3 as well. So something traumatic in their hand, we get rid of it, and this does the job. New card in the deck as well, Bloated Processor. Sacrifice another Phyrexian, put a 1/1 counter on it. We've got Cammy now that can put more counters on it. When this dies, incubate X, where X is power, and it's already a 3/2 as well. So this could be, it's a brilliant card for this deck, and it synergizes really well with Cammy as well, and obviously putting counters on and the proliferating just works really, really sweet. Other in the deck as well, this wasn't in my main deck, and it is an uncommon, but I found it since. 2/3, the Huntmaster, pay 1, sacrifice another creature or artifact, and we get to incubate 3. So potentially do it in response to something being killed. We can sacrifice another creature and then get an incubate 3 token. So we just go to the land base now. Like I said, Llanowar Waste is in there, Deathcap Glade, a Besiege You, and Attacking Numa. Just pretty standard cards if you're playing any of the colours. You want to add like the Aganjus for white, and Attacking Numa playing black. They're just really good cards. Some of the best that were printed definitely from that set for me. If you want to make Ginny a little bit easier, I held back on the lands a bit here. You could add in the tri-lands. They will potentially draw your card if you don't need them as well. But we can play this for triple green as well. So, we shouldn't really struggle with 2 colours with the fixing that we have as well to really play that. But yeah, that has been 3 0 rare decks today, all upgraded. Let me know what you think of this new type of video. I hope you've enjoyed it. I will try and get some gameplay videos out of these. I still got to record some 0 rare gameplay, and then go into some of these, maybe potentially doing some upgrade some upgrade gameplay as well. Let me know what you think about that, if you want to see that. So I just want to say a big shout out to my Patreons. Thank you for all that extra support. If you want to go and do that, you can go and check out the link in the description. And if not, just give us a big thumbs up on the videos. They really do help. And if you're watching to the end, that helps out more than you ever know and helps circulate the videos. So thank you. You lot take care, and I'll see you on the next video.